Hi, I'm Bob Giraldi, Chair of the Live Action Short Film Grad Program at the School of Visual Arts. And joining me are three very formidable festival directors. Calliope Nicholas is the director of FilmColumbia in Chatham, New York. She's also the residency director at Millet Colony for Arts, an international artist colony in Austerlitz, New York. And Calliope, way back, worked at Studio 54, so she knows what it takes to create a fabulous awards show. Doug LeClaire has run the Asbury Shorts for 30 years. He's also run the short film program at the Lake Placid Film Festival for 5 years and has worked as a venue operations manager at the Garden State Film Festival also for the past 5 years. Karen Arikian is the U.S. rep for the Berlin International Film Festival and the U.S. consultant for European film promotion and programmer and series producer for BAFTA's Brits to Watch. She was formerly the executive director of the Hamptons International Film Festival. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, let's start. Why? What is the allure? Reported to be very hard work with very little compensation, why don't each of you take on the enormous responsibility of being in charge of a major film festival? Should we do the ladies first?
Well, this is Karen, and I have a very personal reason for it, and that is that I've met some of the most fascinating, creative, and interesting people of my life in the film business. When I started in, I think, say, the mid-'80s, my first assignment was to go to Cannes, and some good people from the IFP introduced me into the industry. I didn't know anyone at the time, and it was just a wonderful experience to meet all these great people. And then came the films.
Calliope?
I've been with the FilmColumbia Festival since its inception in 1999, and I've always loved film. And to be up on the edge of the Berkshires in Chatham, New York, and to be part of this creating a festival that really just raises the energy level up. It brings a whole new set of people to the town that we wouldn't normally see. And it celebrates film. And, we start off at the beginning like, what am I doing? Another year of doing this. And then, I start to get excited. And it's the people that I work with and the filmmakers that come into an area they haven't been to. And also it's a community that sees an amazing array of films that they may not actually see normally. So all of that adds to the thrill of putting together the film festival.
And Doug?
Well, Asbury Shorts was formed many years ago when I was 6 to promote short films when there was not a lot of outlets for it. There was PBS and the early years of HBO. So our whole thing is really in our mission, which is to bring shorts to the general public, folks that never get a chance to see. I've always said that I could probably stand on a busy Manhattan street corner at noon and thousands of people going by and ask, have you seen the Oscar winner for shorts? And a lot of folks will never know what I'm talking about. So Asbury was sort of formed to create an evening of eclectic lineup of shorts from the past and present so that folks could see them in a theatrical presentation with popcorn and a large crowd and fun. And we'd have an Oscar winner, a Sundance winner, a Berlin winner, a non-winner, but all in one evening covering live action. And that's been what's really been exciting. Audiences that normally don't get a chance to see shorts in a theatrical atmosphere and their reaction to these films that we bring in.
Okay, so let's talk about the location, because those of us that go to film festivals regularly consider very much where it is and what happens besides watching the films. We could really see a good new film in a lot of places. How important does location play in the success and allure of each film festival? And do any of you wish your festival was being put on someplace else other than where it is?
I think that, obviously the town, the location is really important. I think having the right venues is really important, and that helps. We're lucky in Chatham that we've got this great Spanish-style theater that holds 535 people. So, we're able to have a great venue for that. And then we've got other surrounding venues that we also use as part of the film festival, and everything is within walking distance. Plus, Chatham is on the edge of the Berkshires, and it's it's 1 block long, but it looks like a film set, especially when you have the crowds there and everybody's there. So the atmosphere is great, and I don't think I'd want to be anywhere else. I think we're getting to the point where we're expanding, and we're looking at that, and we're going to be expanding within the community and within the county, but I'm happy where we are.
But up in that beautiful region of New York State, that's where you're going to stay. And I know myself, when I go to FilmColumbia, it's just, I look forward to that weekend. And not only the films, but
right, and it's beautiful, right? And it's the fall. You're right towards just the end of the fall foliage. It's beautiful. Upstate New York is just one of the
likewise for the Hamptons, Karen.
Absolutely, and Bob, you know very well because you're on the board. And the Hamptons is a destination festival. It's a location. It's an incredible location, especially in September and October. I was there till December last year, but we bring our team out there in September. The summer crowd is gone for the most part, and we get a lot of work done. And then during the festival, the guests who come and the filmmakers who come are treated to this amazing, the natural beauty out there is amazing, and the festival is spread out over 4 towns from Montauk to Southampton. And, every community has its audience. And David Nugent, who's the artistic director, programs, I think, very well according to what that audience out east on Long Island is interested in. It's a very intelligent audience. It's a very influential audience. And those all come into play. And I also feel that it was very important out in the Hamptons to establish, I worked very hard at establishing collaborations with local organizations, like with the Parish Museum, with MoMA, but MoMA in New York. I think that's a foundation for all of our nonprofits, that we need to be able to collaborate with other people for higher visibility and lower costs. So that's a long answer to your question. The Hamptons is a gorgeous place to visit, to have a festival, as you know. And just very briefly, Berlin is a gorgeous city that's so cold. Dieter Koslik, the director, always says, okay, we don't have any palm trees, but it is an incredible city. And everybody knows it's booming. It's a graphic center. It's a fashion center. It's a technology center for a lot of new startups. And the festival has expanded under Dieter Koslik's directorship, and it does a lot of things for young people, which I'll talk about later on. But I think it's a wonderful location for a festival. It's so inspiring.
So we've established that 3 of the festivals are really dependent on where they are. It's very much a part of it. And you, Doug, where is yours?
Well, there's no doubt our flagship show is our Manhattan show, held annually. And then what we do is we'll take the program, most of it, on the road. It shows where we book ourselves into different cities across the U.S. We've actually been in Berlin with the show, which was a huge hit for us. We loved doing our show there. We've done Summer Stage in Central Park. So in Manhattan, we've had the show at the DGA Theater and the Auditorium on Broadway and Central Park. And there's no doubt that is our idea, is to try to fill the seats with folks who need a chance to see these films, and that's our most popular show. Filmmakers, because we don't give awards. Why would an independent filmmaker or a student or an artist want to be in our show? Well, being in Manhattan has a lot to do with it, marketing capital of the world, and being seen on a screen. And we invite critics from the news agencies to come, and we also invite the television advertising community to come, and we give the filmmakers who are in our show an opportunity to meet some of those folks who maybe down the road they have a shot at directing a TV commercial, and getting that from showing a film at our show, which makes us very happy and lucrative for them. But then we do take it on the road, and we've had terrific success in various cities, from everywhere from Freiburg, Maine to LA, and again, audiences just seem to soak up wanting to see these great stories on the screen.
May I just comment?
Sure, of course.
Just what you're saying, I think since you're doing your show in a lot of different places, I think it's really true. It's not only the location, it's the audience. What does the audience want?
Exactly.
And if you're presenting challenging, interesting short films, that's who you want to. The audience is essential. There's a few festivals like in LA and in Cannes and that are industry based, and so that also affects what you program. But generally, I think you're always looking towards your audience.
Yeah, I mean, our show will play well to industry folks just as it will to the Kiwanis Club in that city, because the folks will see something in the paper, or they may hear me on the radio, or whatever it is, that how they find out about the show, and they're like, oh, look, there's an Oscar winner in the show tonight. Oh, look, there's a local filmmaker they've inserted. And then they come, and our challenge is always to keep them in the seat. So we do lean on entertainment and comedy. Every other film should be a comedy, so they'll stay there, and we hope they come back after intermission. But it's that mix. It's important for us to present for them a mix of films from the past and present, so they get the whole idea of what's going on in the short film world these days.
But this concept of location, which is so interesting, filmmakers think it's all about their films, but it's not all about their films. It's about something something else as well. How much pushback is there from people where you are? I know the Hamptons are very, very, people who expect life to go according to the way they like it to go.
Right. Someone just told me the other day that a judge told me out there that when a cop stops a celebrity out there, this one cop, if the celebrity says, "Do you know who I am?" the cop goes, "You don't know who you are? Oh, well, we can get you right away to the Island Psych Hospital to take care of you. Not to worry."
That's awesome.
Anyway. Do you know who I am? No, I think, the audience in the Hamptons has perhaps a reputation. They expect, or maybe even sometimes feel entitled to certain things. It's a very specific audience. But in fact, when you put on the festival out there, it's some of the most intelligent questions I've ever heard in an audience. People are very engaged in the subject matter, especially, there's the 5 Oscar contenders that everybody wants to see, but then there's the political films and the films in the conflict and resolution section that I think draw a lot of people in. So, to answer your question, I think there are some expectations in certain audiences, but I also always say, audiences in a film festival are very forgiving. We've all sat in a theater where, nothing's happening for 20 minutes and someone's running around and, very forgiving. And it applies to the Hamptons as it applies to Berlin, just as big. Maybe not Cannes.
As they are in rock concerts. Calliope, I don't think people are as entitled in Chatham, New York. Close, but not quite as like the Hamptons.
No, they're not. But, as far as the audience goes, we have an intelligent audience that comes, and they have a trust that the FilmColumbia is going to come through with great programming. And they also really appreciate the filmmakers coming in and being there and having an interaction with them and having a discussion with them. Definitely the Q&A or panels after the screenings. And I think that's something that enhances and makes a film festival a little bit different and different par than just a screening. Is they want to have that interaction, they want to have that discussion, they want to be engaged with the film that they're seeing, and they very much appreciate that.
Good. All right, then I have to ask, how? The public thinks each festival is basically just a collection of new films and a few stars walking around looking for a little attention. But are your respective festivals individual? Are they different enough? Is there an overall strategy to a festival?
For FilmColumbia, it's bringing in the very best films that we can bring in to engage our audience. And for us, being in a rural area, many of these films, many of the foreign films, that sort of thing, are probably films that may not get to our area. Or if they do, it won't be until years after the fact. So they're giving them a rare opportunity to see this film early and to see it there on the big screen. And again, many times it's also with the filmmaker to have a discussion and have that interaction with them. So I think that makes us valuable and makes us a little bit different than just having a film at the big screen, at the theater.
But the strategy for you is, because you're only on for a week in a small venue, so it's very select, right? You have to be really select because you can't show a lot.
Right, right.
Where Tribeca Film Festival, I imagine, I live in Tribeca, so I see gobs of people walking around aimlessly all the time, but I would imagine they, show 12 different theaters at a time.
Right.
You have 2.
Right. So we have 2 venues for screening and then another one for panel discussions, that sort of thing. And one of the screenings, we've got the big theater, and then we've got the Morris screening, and that is for more regional films, for films that people definitely wouldn't normally have a chance to see. And that is a place, what I like about the Morris, it's intimate enough. It holds 125 people. So, filmmakers come to almost every single one of the films that we show there, and they really can have a great discussion, afterwards. And I like that intimate style with that. But,
and the Hamptons has I would imagine, has a bit of a conflict in that it's in East Hampton, Southampton, and where else? Montauk
and Sag Harbor.
Sag Harbor.
And, well, I think in some ways every festival has to have some kind of identity. I mean, there's so many festivals. In France alone, there's 270 short film festivals, I read today, in France alone.
Short film festivals?
Yes.
Wow.
And it's just, there's one in every town.
Oh, yeah.
So back to the U.S., I mean, you need to have an identity. I think the Hamptons has done a very fine job in carving out what their identity is, and because they're at the beginning of the award season, along with, they're a little parallel to the New York Film Festival the last couple of days, we were able to leverage that with the studios, combining the fact that there's Academy voters who live out there and come out there every weekend until maybe Thanksgiving, or at least through October, Columbus Day, definitely. So, that's how we tried to carve ourselves out. We wanted to have a few very high-profile films that were on the Academy circuit, and then exactly what you do. I mean, foreign and American independents, but also foreign films. We had very strong connections with the promotional agencies in Europe, to present films that are not going to get over here. And I remember when Troubled Water, I think it's Troubled Water, Troubled Water won all the awards at our festival, Norwegian film, and Alec Baldwin was there, and at the end of the screening, he called up a Norwegian newspaper and and said, "This is the most fantastic film," So I just think you do need an identity, and Berlin, I think, even as a big, massive festival like Berlin that has, I think, over 300 films screening, they have a little thing called neighborhood cinema, and they actually go to small art house cinemas all around Berlin.
Nice.
And bring a special number of films out there. So number one, they're supporting the art house community, which is something they're really trying to do. And number two, they're identifying certain communities like a Turkish community or a very young, hip community like in Neukölln, and bringing the films out that way too. So.
Great.
Well, the festivals that I've worked on outside of Asbury Shorts, their challenge, Lake Placid, a big Olympic city, yet it's a very small town. And, when Sundance started, I remember working on a commercial before it even got off the ground, and it was a ski bum town. And these are the areas that, grow into these huge things. But their challenge has always been to get the local community to come and be a part of the ticket buying thing. I remember Lake Placid has the banner across the road. It has all the promotion in the radio and all of that. Yet, as a paid employee, I went to get some groceries as a supermarket, and I asked the checkout woman, "Are you coming to the show?" She had never heard of it, didn't even know about it, and I find that a lot at Garden State Film Festival. They work really hard in Asbury Park, which is a great oceanfront beach community, also has another side of the tracks with a depressed and struggling community, and we try to get out into that community to tell them, you need to see these films, you need to see what this is. They have no idea what a film festival is. So that struggle that I've found seems to be on the local level, regular folks, not in the industry, not on the film festival. I don't know if you guys have that experience at all, but that's what I've seen. With Asbury Shorts, wherever we go, we try to promote the heck out of it with no advertising budget, but we try to get the word out everywhere so that we hope to get people into the seats that are seeing these things for the first time, mixed with some folks who have seen some of the shorts before. It's a nice little combo.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get into the nitty-gritty for the filmmaker. How do you judge these films? You judge them solely on their quality, or do you judge them with star power? What are the politics? Which I'm sure you're all versed in by now.
Yeah, politics. We look for a great story. That's what we look for in the film. And yes, having star power helps. It helps sell tickets. But again, we show a good percentage of, foreign films. None of the actors are recognized here within the U.S. It's technically put together really well. It's a beautiful film to look at. It's just got a storyline that's just going to pull you right in. That's what we look for. We want...
So you're looking for excellence in filmmaking.
Excellence in filmmaking. Yes, yeah.
If it was an action film and Tom Cruise would come along, would that film because of Tom Cruise? I mean, that's a legitimate question.
Only if he'd go to opening night as well.
Yeah.
No, I'm only kidding.
I mean,
no,
here at the film festival, we basically just show films that have not been released. They're all pre-released films. So we've got some big films that are coming through, and it's through Peter Biskin and Larry Kardish are our two main programmers. So they're looking all over, the world and all the different film festivals for them. But
so their festival is basically films before they've been released.
yes.
And that's a strategy.
Yeah.
Makes that festival unique in its own way.
Yeah, and that's part of the appeal to a lot of our audiences. They're coming to see a film that nobody else has seen. That's probably been viewed only at other film festivals. Again, even for the short films, even for the regional films, for the documentaries that may not ever get a distributor, they're all really well made and tell a fantastic story or do something really interesting.
So you would claim that quality is what drives you?
Sure.
Karen?
Well, I actually don't program shorts. Mostly I am dealing with feature films, but I checked in with Jeffrey Bowers, who runs the Hamptons short film program. And I know it from Berlin as well. They're looking for excellence, as you state as well, but they're also looking for a package. How does all of this balance out? Jeffrey said, he's a rather eclectic programmer, so that always appeals to him, number one, and also he programs from the heart. So I think you have to trust the programmers that, it might be the executives. I was an executive director who say, well, we need, this many people there for that many sponsors and stars for these sponsors in front of this step and repeat. But the programmers, I think, are definitely not thinking about that. They're thinking about the best film possible. And in Berlin, too, if they only show a handful of short films, they have to be highly selective, and it has to be a balanced program. So that's also what Jeffrey said, a balanced program he's looking for. I mean, he'll never turn down a film if it's excellent, but he looks at it also, they show, I think, 8 different strands.
So I think what you're saying to the short film aficionados who are listening and wannabes, that it really doesn't matter to the programmer as much if the film has a star. It matters more if it's a good film and if it fits a kind of mix that the programmer feels would make an interesting short film program within the festival.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that's very true. And then I come along and say, but, who's going to be on the red carpet? So not necessarily for short films. I think short films have a grace period because, nobody's looking for... sometimes like a Steve Buscemi or someone like that will create a short film and they'll want to be there with their movie, which is great, but the programmers aren't programming for that.
The same for us. It's all about story. Our time limit is 20 minutes, and we will program an evening anywhere from 10 to a dozen shorts. We also bring some shorts back from past years because we have audience members in our New York show or some of the places we return with the show who come with friends and saying, are you going to show Lunch again? Are you going to show that one from 2 years ago? We brought 15 people to see that again. So from that aspect, there's no awards, and it's sort of a view of what's going on in the world of shorts, but it's all about the story. We'll talk to the filmmakers about that. For 10 minutes, they're telling us about how it was digitally shot on this Canon DSLR, and you're falling on deaf ears. I don't care if it was done by a court artist reporter in the courtroom, as long as the story holds up and it mixes in our program like you described with a mix of quality. That's what it's all about. And short films, to get a story across, especially in certain genres, is one of the hardest things, I think, in the artistic world.
And nothing against Tom Cruise, but our intelligent audience, I don't think they would appreciate seeing that film in a film festival. It doesn't really enhance what we're doing. Or
So we're still staying as artistic as we possibly can. A film that has some artistry, which leads me to the next, probably the most important question for all our futures. I'm sure we're all aware of the impact that the most recent Emmy Awards has had already, that I think it shows clearly that the baton has finally been passed. Hollywood is no longer king, is no longer in charge, and neither is the feature film. Television is the most important new entertainment vehicle in the world, not just in America, in the world. How does this, if at all, affect your festivals? Or have you not thought about that just yet?
In fact, a lot. Many festivals are starting to program TV series, either the pilot or 3 episodes or the full series. In Berlin and in Sundance this year, they both programmed Top of the Lake, the Jane Campion TV show for Sundance. Both of them, 5 hours like this. I know South by Southwest did Bates Motel, and they did Girls. They were really ahead of the scheme. Everyone's catching up right now, so that's how it impacts festivals. I know my director at the Berlin Film Festival is saying we need to make those connections that we have in the film industry with the TV industry, with the cable industry, really, and also with companies like Netflix and Hulu. And in fact, it doesn't really matter if it's on TV. It's just different formats, different times, whenever you want.
That's right.
And whatever's good can be shown in a festival. I think people still need a festival because it's a community experience.
Yeah.
Strange that there still will always be called film festivals when in reality they're high-definition festivals.
Yeah.
They're digital festivals.
Or they're media festivals or something like that.
What about in FilmColumbia?
I mean, we have relationships with some filmmakers and actors who are involved with HBO, and so we're seeing that, but it hasn't really affected us. Even though I have to the DCP, to the digital, 2 years ago we went from 50% of it, no, actually it was like 70% of it was in print, 35 millimeter, to this year, not one of the distributors wanted to give it to us in print. It was all DCP. Absolutely. It's amazing. I mean, we'd all been hearing about it, but it's just interesting to see how quickly that really changed. And luckily we were able to step up to it and be able to make the switch over to DCP. But
it happened at the Hamptons 2 years ago, where the day after the festival closed, the UA theaters ripped out all the 35 and actually gave us 2 projectors that are in storage in Boston.
I know, we put ours in the basement. We couldn't get rid of it.
And put in all DCP, and we maintained 135 at Guildhall because they had a...
There's no more film.
There's no more film.
What happened to that grain?
Wow.
What do you think, Doug?
Depressed. Well, we're a shorts show. That's all we do. And if in this world of DCP and webisodes and network television popularity, as you mentioned, that the Emmys absolutely showed the world of television entertainment is being done by terrific people who have talent and real stories, and cable opened that up, and now the webs have opened that up. I mean, what network is not doing original programming and financing? Where does it come from? But they're doing it, and new directors are getting exposure, and people are watching this stuff. I mean, but for us, the only thing I can say is I hope that someone is in our show is a filmmaker that will get the opportunity to direct some of these shows or produce them in the future, and that maybe somewhere down the line someone will say, well, we had our show in Asbury Shorts, and now we're directing the next episode of Dexter or whatever's out.
Do you show film, 35 millimeter film, in your festival still?
Only at one place, and when we do it in New York, if the opportunity arises, we just don't get it from the filmmaker so much. We do put it out there, because if we do the show at the Directors Guild Theater, we mix digital with film, because we just feel like people who have only grown up in the digital world need to see that print on the screen and fill the screen with that pristine look. And nothing against digital, but that's the only opportunity we get to do that.
Okay, let me get into the last question, which is the one I like the best. Or is it the most?
The bestest.
I teach, as you know, I teach young people to make short films, and I urge them to get in as many legitimate and relevant film festivals as possible. But the biggest complaint I hear from the most of the filmmakers is that the festivals are infected with politics. If you don't know anyone, you don't have a chance. How true is that? Or is it true at all?
I think that's not true at all. I mean, for us, and in preparation for coming here, I also looked at other film festivals and their, call for entries, and many of them, actually come right out and say that it doesn't matter if you're a known filmmaker or not. They're looking for fresh faces, for fresh films, for interesting twists to stories. I think with the whole digital medium that's coming out, there's probably more filmmakers out there than ever that's got some interesting stories to tell and technology that they can easily use it for.
So Peter Biskin's mother-in-law is not going to get in the festival.
If
she doesn't make a good
doesn't
film.
create a good film, there's no, or a good short, absolutely not. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, there's some young filmmakers I'm nurturing along that I think have a lot of talent, that I'm trying to tell them the business side of making connections and networking to do it. I think to us that's the most exciting. We had Courtney Hunt. The story that she came in with Frozen River. James Seamus was there on Main Street with Melissa Leo for 21 Grams, and Courtney was an unknown and talked to Melissa, and they made this short, and it was an entry 3 years later as a feature for the Academy. So things can happen. We like seeing that. And I think a lot of film festivals actually like seeing that as well. I'm sure there's politics, but
FilmColumbia can claim that there's very, very little politics at all, right?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes. There's not. Yes. We're into being a gracious, small, well-run film festival.
Now, let's talk about politics in the Hamptons.
Grease my palm and no. Well, as I said, I checked in with Jeffrey Bowers, who's a guy of incredible integrity. And he's a young kid. He's like in his late 20s or something, and writes for Vice. He's really a smart guy. He said they get 1,200 entries, and they show, I think he's showing 50 films. So that's the other side of the coin. And I also want to just read to you what he wrote at the very end of this. He said, "Remember, it's always helpful to be pleasantly persistent, gracious on the phone, via email and in person, and available to attend the festival. All these things are considered as we decide on a film." So what he's saying is that you desperately want your film in there, you've worked so hard on it, but maybe it doesn't belong there. Maybe it belongs someplace else, So I always say your film will find its place, So I think numbers play a game. 3,000 entries at Berlin, 50 films, short films. So
there'll be a lot more disappointed people than people.
Well, there's new outlets, Bob. They can use outlets on the internet. Those young people are smart, and we're a little bit the dinosaurs. I like being a dinosaur working in this business, but there's so many other ways you can get your film out, and you can start working in groups. The IFP is starting up their media center in Dumbo, which is a kind of an incubation center, and there's opportunities for people. So anyway, I sympathize with people who get rejected. I produced 3 films, and I got a lot of rejections on 2 of them. So I appreciate it, but it's the reality of the situation in numbers. And if a film's really great, it's going to get in.
Well, I sit with young filmmakers all the time, one-on-one or in classrooms, and I say the very best thing, like you mentioned, is the outlets that are out there. Politics or not, there's always another place. Now, if you're gearing on getting in something that your only focus is the Oscars, well, then you may meet some politics along the way because of certain festivals that have their thing. I don't know for sure. I just tell them there's a film festival on every street corner. There's a lot of broadcast opportunities with PBS and Sundance and IFP. There's a lot of places where a short can go. What I find is not so much the politics that young filmmakers or artistic independent filmmakers complain about. It's a lot of times it's the number and amount of the entry fees they find daunting because of the festivals that they want to enter, and also they find the festivals who say to them, and this may not be so prevalent in the shorts world, although they do tell me this, is that I really want to be in that festival, but the other festival that already accepted me told me if I were in that festival, they're going to knock us down a notch, or they're not going to show our film. So there's a challenge of financial, if you're a struggling independent filmmaker filmmaker, which festival can I afford, how many can I afford, plus your application fee without a box, and also which ones am I trying to get into where I'm not going to annoy the programmers of one festival because they really like the film, they want to open the shorts program with it on a Friday night for the cocktail party, but this other festival wants us also, but they told us not to do that, so it's sort of like a challenge, and that's a little bit political thing that I think
That's an embarrassment of riches.
Correct.
That's the politics on the other side.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Can I just, one little thing? Cannes Film Festival, if you join the short film corner, which isn't actual, it's more like a market thing. If you're not accepted, it's €95. If you're not accepted, they give you your money back.
That's fantastic.
Can you believe it?
That's great.
I suffer for those kids sitting there.
Spent at the bar that night.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I think, I'm sorry, go ahead, Kelly.
I was just going to say one last comment. I just think, having listened to you guys, I think the really important thing for the filmmaker to do is to do their research, to do, to look and see which film festivals are going to be a good fit for them, to work, on how they can build up their film and get into a couple film festivals, and then they can use those credentials to get into bigger film festivals that may be dealing more with a numbers game as far as getting a lot of entries. So I think, they need to be smart and be a little bit business savvy and think of their film not only just as them being a filmmaker and they've got a great film, but how do they work the business side? And again, I think it's just kind of doing your homework.
The life experience and learning experience of that is incredible.
Exactly. Even without a film, I would encourage a filmmaker to go to a festival, a big festival like Berlin or Cannes, where they have certain pockets where you can get support and help for what you're doing, just to learn.
Yeah.
You're going to meet so many people, and it's all about who you meet, your relationships.
Speaking of learning, let's retire to the classroom and we'll bring some of this marvelous encouragement and insight to the students. This is Bob Giraldi saying thank you to Calliope Nicholas, Doug LeClaire, Karen Arikian for being our guest tonight, and I'm sure you find it as interesting and enlightening as I have. Thank you.
Large crowd and fun, and we'd have an Oscar winner, a Sundance winner, a Berlin winner, a non-winner, but all in one evening covering live action. And that's been what's really been exciting. Audiences that normally don't get a chance to see shorts in a theatrical atmosphere, and their reaction to these films that we bring in.
Okay, so let's talk about the location, because those of us that go to film festivals regularly consider very much where it is and what happens besides watching the films. We could really see a good new film in a lot of places. How important does location play in the success and allure of each film festival? And do any of you wish your festival was being put on someplace else other than where it is?
I think that, obviously the town, the location is really important. I think having the right venues is really important, and that helps. We're lucky in Chatham that we've got this great Spanish-style theater that holds 535 people. So, we're able to have a great venue for that. And then we've got other surrounding venues that we also use as part of the film festival, and everything is within walking distance. Plus, Chatham is on the edge of the Berkshires, and it's it's 1 block long, but it looks like a film set, especially when you have the crowds there and everybody's there. So the atmosphere is great, and I don't think I'd want to be anywhere else. I think we're getting to the point where we're expanding, and we're looking at that, and we're going to be expanding within the community and within the county, but I'm happy where we are.
But up in that beautiful region of New York State, that's where you're going to stay. And I know myself, when I go to FilmColumbia, it's just, I look forward to that weekend. And not only the films, but
right, and it's beautiful, right? And
Yes.
it's the fall, you're right towards just the end of the fall foliage. It's beautiful. Upstate New York is just one of the
likewise for the Hamptons, Karen.
Absolutely, and Bob, you know very well because you're on the board. And the Hamptons is a destination festival. It's a location. It's an incredible location, especially in September and October. I was there till December last year, but we bring our team out there in September. The summer crowd is gone for the most part.
And it celebrates film. And, we start off at the beginning like, what am I doing? Another year of doing this. And then, I start to get excited. And it's the people that I work with and the filmmakers that come into an area they haven't been to. And also it's a community that sees an amazing array of films that they may not actually see normally. So all of that adds to the thrill of putting together the film festival.
And Doug?
Well, Asbury Shorts was formed many, many years ago when I was 6 to promote short films when there was not a lot of outlets for it. There was PBS and the early years of HBO. So our whole thing is really in our mission, which is to bring shorts to the general public, folks that never get a chance to see. I've always said that I could probably stand on a busy Manhattan street corner at noon and thousands of people going by and ask, have you seen the Oscar winner for shorts? And a lot of folks will never know what I'm talking about. So Asbury was sort of formed to create an evening of eclectic lineup of shorts from the past and present so that folks could see them in a theatrical presentation with popcorn and a large...
Why? What is the allure? Reported to be very hard work with very little compensation, why don't each of you take on the enormous responsibility of being in charge of a major film festival? Should we do the ladies first?
Well, this is Karen, and I have a very personal reason for it, and that is that I've met some of the most fascinating, creative, and interesting people of my life in the film business. When I started in, I think, say, the mid-'80s, my first assignment was to go to Cannes, and some good people from the IFP introduced me into the industry. I didn't know anyone at the time, and it was just a wonderful experience to meet all these great people. And then came the films.
Calliope?
I've been with the FilmColumbia Festival since its inception in 1999, and I've always loved film. And to be up on the edge of the Berkshires in Chatham, New York, and to be part of this, creating a festival that really just raises the energy level up. It brings a whole new set of people to the town that we wouldn't normally see.
Hi, I'm Bob Giraldi, chair of the live action short film grad program at the School of Visual Arts. And joining me are 3 very formidable festival directors. Calliope Nicholas is the director of FilmColumbia in Chatham, New York. She's also the residency director at Millet Colony for Arts, an international artist colony in Austerlitz, New York. And Calliope, way back, worked at Studio 54, so she knows what it takes to create a fabulous award show. Doug LeClaire has run the Asbury Shorts for 30 years. He's also run the short film program at the Lake Placid Film Festival for 5 years and has worked as a venue operations manager at the Garden State Film Festival also for the past 5 years. Karen Arikian is the U.S. rep for the Berlin International Film Festival and the U.S. consultant for European film promotion and programmer and series producer for BAFTA's Brits to Watch. She was formerly the executive director of the Hamptons International Film Festival. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, let's start.